I call this special call meeting of the Siloam Springs Board of Directors for the purpose of discussing the workshop on health insurance, proposed self-funded health care for the city of Siloam Springs. Adrian.
Thank you, Adrian Barr, HR Manager. This year, the staff would like to propose a self-funded insurance plan for the employees of Siloam Springs. It will be tailored to meet the needs and the expectations for, I'm going to do this, I can't do it, to meet the expectations through self-funding for our employees. We want to use the Blue Cross Blue Shield network. That one is a network that is all-encompassing for providers as well as, the pharmaceutical needs that our employees are used to and really can use. Historically, United Healthcare is a nationwide company, and even though it has providers from coast to coast, in this area they were pretty limited. Cigna had the same issues, but the providers locally are not happy with the low reimbursement rates. And if there was a provider that is willing to negotiate with Cigna, it takes a long time for the contracting and the credentialing to occur between both parties. And we have also had one provider that has had the contract for 9 months now and still has not signed with Cigna. And that's very disheartening because our employees are still utilizing that employee or that provider, and that provider is using the out-of-network costs. So it really doesn't, there's no incentive for them to sign it because they're getting paid at a higher reimbursement rate at the expense of our employee. Blue Cross and Blue Shield did have the most expensive plan in the past due to all of our claims experiences that we have had, which is why we've always had to go, and that and state law has required us to go out to bid. Pharmaceuticals are another challenge that we have had historically. United Healthcare and Cigna both have higher drug cost than Blue Cross and Blue Shield. For example, our employees that were on insulin, they were used to paying $25 to maybe $50 a vial, and with United Healthcare, it was $900 a vial. So we had all kinds of studies. It was not good. We had people in our office crying and taking out their retirement to cover their medication cost. It just wasn't good. So Cigna has a slightly better formulary for all of their insulin products, but their heart medications have been a challenge for us this year. We have had employees that have had to change their heart medication because it's not covered under the current formulary. So that's taken some of our employees a little bit of time to go to the doctor to get those medications changed, get them regulated, and get them switched over. Or they're paying out-of-pocket network cost for that. Based on all of that disruption, this has been quite a challenge, both physically, mentally. I mean, it has really made some people sick to their stomach because they've had to change their providers every year, sometimes medications every year. And of course, financially, as I said, they have had to go to their retirement plans to help pay for some of their medications. And it's heart-wrenching for me as an HR manager because what we were told hasn't, oh yes, our formularies are the same. Well, they neglected to say same in certain areas, and the financial cost to our employees has not been the best. So when we went out to bid this year, we requested 2 different bids so we could make sure that we knew what we were looking at, comparing apples to apples as best you can. We requested the high deductible with the PPO plan, which is what we currently have, and then we asked for bids for self-funding so we could see what kind of network. We had several companies, respond. So we had Aetna, Arkansas, Blue Cross and Blue Shield, AML, Cigna, Meritain, which is a division of Aetna, Qual Choice, United Healthcare, and then we posted it as well in the newspapers. We only had the 4 people or 4 companies respond, which is AML, Arkansas Blue Cross, Cigna, and Meritain. The others declined either because their cost would be too high based on our claims experience, or they just didn't want to have to go back out to bid every year. And from what I am understanding from our broker, this is a very common thing with the insurance companies and municipalities across the U.S. because of the way laws are written and the way they have to go out to bid. They're not wanting to bid on it because they're not guaranteed anything or repetitive business year after year. And then AML didn't supply what we'd asked for. They had their PPO plan, so that is all that they had. Meritain only gave us a self-funded plan, and they're not going to give us any quotes specifically on rates until later in the year. Most carriers will not give us specific rates until about 60 days out before the effective date. So that would put us about November 1st. We've been able to sweet talk them, and they think maybe if the underwriter's in a good mood, we might have some rates mid-October, first maybe of October 1st, but it'll probably be November 1st before we get anything. And we do not have very many providers here at all for Meritain. Blue Cross, again, the same issue that we have with the numbers. They want to wait until they see our claims experience closer to the effective date. Cigna, was able to give us a bid because they have all of our claims information. So they can kind of predict what our claims will be for next year. And with that, they're thinking that their premium would increase by about 3%. We want to offer a self-funded medical plan using the Blue Cross and Blue Shield network and their plan like we had a few years ago. Sorry, I talked with my hands and got in the way. And employees like the providers. They like the network. It's easy. The providers like the Blue Cross network because of the better reimbursement rates. And we will maybe switch everybody over to the HSA plan and not have a PPO plan. We haven't really decided on that yet. Met with some of the employees we have 17 employees on the PPO plan. Some of them decided just to take the PPO because their spouse said to take it. There are a couple of people that took it because of medical necessity. One of those persons had the high deductible prior to and did okay on it as well. So we're considering everything. We're not throwing the PPO plan out. We don't know exactly which direction we're going as of yet, except as far as offering 2 plans, or if we're just going to offer the 1 plan, the high deductible. So that's why there's a question mark there, because we're not absolutely positive which direction we're going to go on that part yet. So I just want to give you a heads up on that one. And then I'm going to let Christina take it from here.
When we first started considering going self-funded, we started looking at old claims and participation rates, and quite frankly, they vary quite a bit from year to year. And eventually we realized that probably using Cigna's maximum claims liability is really the way to go, because they, using their actuaries, have determined that that will pretty much cover all of their medical claims, their overhead, and potentially a profit. So that same amount of money should be able to afford our network fees for the Blue Cross, our stop loss premiums, and our medical claims. if we can put $2.2 million in the budget, I think that's a good start. That's basically what Cigna is expecting from us. However, being an accountant and conservative, we like to hedge our bets. So one of the things that staff would be proposing would be to take all of the budgeted but unspent money for healthcare at the end of this year and put it over into a cash account to start the self-funded bank account. One of the things that we really did, I would say, not the best the last time we were self-funded was we budgeted all of our claims in the funds, and then at the end of the year, if there was money left over, we rolled it into full fund balance. We don't want to do that this go round. What we want to do is set up a separate internal service fund where once the money goes over there, it's for health claims, and it doesn't go back over to the utility fund or the general fund and be put into those fund balances. It would have its own fund balance, basically. And what that would do is it would allow the balance to grow so that when we have these really high claim years, it would cover those claims. So in looking at what it would take to put the $2.2 million in the budget, the increase would really only be about 2.5%. And so we wanted to make sure that we didn't increase the employees any more than what our cost was going to increase. And so we are really looking at a very minimal 2.25 or 2.5% increase for employees. So if you're just an employee only, that's $1 a month increase in your premiums. But I wanted to show you a little bit because we're looking at this just a little bit different than we did last year. Last year, when we brought Cigna to you, the amount of the contract that we brought to you was really based on enrollment. So there was less than $2 million worth of contract payments that were expected based on current enrollment. However, when we do our budget, we actually have to budget for every vacancy. And one of the things we do is we budget those at a family level so that we make sure that we have enough budgeted for their, if everybody selected family, we wanted to make sure everybody was covered. That's the reason why we have that little extra $220,000 left over, is basically because we have vacancies and we had to budget more to make sure that all of those vacant positions during budget last year were covered at family. If we look at Cigna's proposal for this year, they're considering just about $2.2 million, as I said, but I have to budget a little bit more than that in our budget to be able to accommodate the vacancies again this year. I can get to the $2.2 million by increasing each participant their rate by 2.5%. I don't have to go the full 3%, which is what Cigna is proposing. It looks like a 10% increase, and the biggest reason for that is because we only had 18 vacancies this time of year last year. This year we have 31. So that is where the remainder of that increase is really coming from. It's because of their 13 additional people being budgeted at the family rate. The other thing I think it's important to point out is that the programs that we already have in place for wellness and for the HSA, those are going to remain. And then now we'd like to open it up for any questions that you guys have.
Could you speak to the reinsurance issue also? The reinsurance policy?
Okay. So basically, part of the quote, or the, yes, I guess you would call it a quote from Blue Cross, included about $300 and not quite $70,000 for reinsurance. That was included in the money that we believe that we'll be able to cover with the $2.2 million. What that does is it's basically an insurance on our insurance. So if an employee or their covered member has a catastrophic type of event occur. We will be maximum out of pocket for that $100,000. Everything above that, they'll pick up. So that's really a big part of our cost outside of the claims. Did you have anything to add?
No.
Okay.
You just go ahead and ask. Yeah.
Did we have catastrophic events claims this year?
We have them every year.
And
Was it a little bit higher this year?
It
or
was
just-
actually a little higher last year.
Okay.
Last year was a high year.
I am familiar
Mm-hmm.
with these insurance companies.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe that Blue Cross is a little bit more reliable. You can depend on them a little bit more. And I do believe that we have more providers in this area that we can access that are in their network. I know we're not dealing with insurance anymore, but when I was, that was the majority of the ones that came into us. Their claims were paid quicker. The patients seemed to react better to Blue Cross. So I am glad to see that we're going to be using their network and their formulary. Is that correct? Is that what
That's
we're doing?
correct. And we're basically what the plan that we used to have through them under full coverage would be the plan that we're going to.
Okay.
follow.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The deductible, well, does it remain the same as we have this year? Okay, so
Yes.
there's no big fluctuation in that
No.
would upset employees. Okay,
It
'cause
will be the same that it's been over the last 3 years. So,
Okay. I think I like where you're going with that. I think it's a way to solve that changing back and forth. It is, I understand when you say the heart-wrenching, when you look at diabetic, and we all hear about the insulin expenses, and it's hard to look at an employee and say, what do you say? You don't have an answer for them. So I think that's good. And I appreciate the work that you've done, because it looks like you've looked at a lot of different plans that were available to us. So I like this. Thank you.
I have a quick question. Is there going to be a need for someone to administer it, and will they be hiring someone, or will that cost be absorbed?
No, ma'am. By using the Blue Cross plan, they will be our they'll be our administrator. So everybody will bill to them, and then they'll send us a check or a request for a check to pay everybody, and we'll send it to them, and they'll pay them.
If I understand this, actually, the employee, it works the same way as if it was through Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, it just goes straight to them. They take care of everything. Okay.
We'll just write the check to reimburse Blue Cross and Blue Shield for what they've paid out in our claims, plus the admin fees.
Do we bid out for the reinsurance? How does that work?
We, the reinsurance companies came with the bids with the self-funded. So there were 3 with Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and then Meritain and Cigna. They had their own, they all work with their own companies, and it works real well because they all have the same computer access, and they can just move forward. If we chose somebody else, like we chose a Cigna reinsurancer for Blue Cross and Blue Shield, then they either will not work with us, or they will charge more to get the information over there to the other provider. So it comes with it.
I want to say I'm glad you guys are doing this. I know a lot of work goes into it, and the rates are amazing for some of the things that have occurred. And one of the things about Blue Cross Blue Shield that a lot of people don't understand, and I think it's great you're doing self-insured, and there's flexibility in self-insurance, and I hope we utilize it to the fullest because we can. One of the things a lot of people don't realize about Blue Cross Blue Shield is the savings to the employees. A lot of times, Cigna and these other companies, their savings whenever a hospital or a doctor's office or provider sends in a bill, they only get like a 30-something% reduction. Blue Cross Blue Shields is always above 40%.
Yes.
So they are saving the employee over 40% every single time they visit.
They have the best discounts, contracts with the providers anywhere. And because they reimburse, and Director Smiley, correct me if I'm wrong, but from the days when I worked in the medical field, they had the quickest reimbursement and the most correct reimbursement rate. And it always benefit the employee because there wasn't a lot of paperwork going back. Well, no, they should charge this, and they should, it was really quick. So, and that I appreciated on that side. So I know as a consumer that that's a good thing as well. Thanks.
Adrian, Christina, what's our upfront commitment on the HSA matching monies?
We put in the $960 in the first paycheck of the upcoming year. If the employee puts in their $40, if they elect the $40 per pay period, if they don't do the whole 40, then we will match it to whatever they've done. It'll come prorate, I guess.
So what will that total amount be right up front?
Oh,
you know that?
The total
I
amount
don't
that
know.
the city puts in, if you participate in the wellness program and you put your $40 in, that's $1,710.
Yes.
The city puts in day one at the beginning of the year. And then you can put in more, obviously.
Right, yeah, but I mean, so our total exposure right up front is,
Oh, per
we're not, is 1,700
per employee.
per employee.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
And-
If they participate in wellness and they put in $40 a pay period
Right.
in that HSA.
We have.
Front load that HSA for
Right.
the employee.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would say, and I think you've all sort of heard it, but one of the biggest complaints that we hear about health insurance is that changing from year to year to year. And it is a major, major issue for you if you are an employee and you have certain medical conditions or your family members have certain medical conditions, because as much as we have tried to pin down United Healthcare and Cigna that we're, they say we're exactly like your other insurance, we cover this, we do that. I've seen Adrian and Christina ask them 20 questions and they answer them just how they do, and then we get into it and find out that's not the way it works. Oh, we forgot to say this, or oh, we didn't include this, and it's a nightmare for some employees. And I commend these two because I challenged them to find a way where we wouldn't have to bid out health insurance costs every year and go with the lowest provider, because that's the only way we can find a way to not have to do that. The Arkansas Municipal League is historically the lowest provider. They provide a minimum insurance package. One of the problems, though, is we have so many Oklahoma employees who live in Oklahoma, and the insurance that they provide doesn't cross the state line, so those employees have to come back into the state for their medical issues. And so what other options do we have? And I would say, and I think we've already hit on it, of all the insurances that we've had since I've been here, the ones that we didn't have, the one that we had the least issues with was Blue Cross Blue Shield. So having this self-insurance program, under that umbrella, is, in our opinion, probably the best way to try to do this. And Christina is exactly right. From everything we can see, historically, years ago, when the city was self-insured, we didn't roll that money back into the same fund year to year. It went back into the general fund. So we never built up a cash account to pay for those years when we had high claims. So when we left 2014 or whenever it was, 2013, when the city left being self-insured, it was because it was costing an arm and a leg because there was no cash account built up to pay some of those high claims. So we really feel if using Blue Cross as the administrator, they're going to hold everybody to that plan. It's either covered or not, right? There's no questions. We don't get to pick and choose who gets covered and what gets covered. It's their plan. And we roll that money every year. If there's $220,000 left over, every year, hopefully we're building that up for the years when there are lots of claims versus the years when there's not lots of claims.
They were absolutely right, too. When you're changing all the time and the employee has one provider and the insurance company doesn't accept that provider, it may take up to 6 to 9 months to get credentialed. And people build up a familiarity with their provider. That's who they want. And I like the idea that we are going to go with a company that has the larger, I believe, network of all of the providers here in this area. And Blue Cross's credentialing is also quicker, I will tell you, for providers.
Good. Well, I know with Blue Cross, if you go out of the area, you still get to use the Blue Cross plan at, say, from here to Maine.
Right, they're nationwide.
They are nationwide. They process according to the Maine contracts and then send it to Arkansas for payment. So we get coverage coast to coast. So we're, that's a really good thing, and I really appreciate that.
Blue Cross in Arkansas is a local Blue Cross, but they have nationwide capability. And their rates really did not. That's pretty good.
Oh,
That's amazing.
the rates are really good. So,
And I know you girls ladies, did a fantastic job of researching this, and I appreciate that.
thank you. Thanks.
The other thing I think you need to understand, because we're talking about rates and we have really good rates. So we upped the percentage that the employee pays a couple of years ago, or last year I think it was. Roughly on an average, the city is covering about 88% of that premium cost, and the employees are picking up about 12%. So, if we keep seeing our rates and our costs go up, we're probably going to have to adjust that at some point. But one of the things we want to try to do is to do everything we can not to do that. And this is one of those options there. It doesn't necessarily keep our rates down or our claims down, but the idea of going self-funding to solve some of that mental anguish that we all have when we change, but we can still work at keeping those rates down with some other programs we can put into place so that we don't shift that cost too much, right? Instead of 12 and 88%, at some point we may be 15 and 85, but if we keep staying with the private provider and their costs keep going up, we're going to have to shift some of that cost. And the last thing that I want to do is give raises to employees and take that whole raise back plus some in health insurance cost.
Do we know what the percentage of participation is in the wellness program? It's not mandatory.
It's not mandatory. I would say we're probably at, there's different levels, but as far as participation, there's probably about 75% the people that are participating.
Because if they don't participate, we don't pay the $750.
Correct. And so you have to participate, get your wellness points for this year to be able to get the money for next year. And so if you don't get your points, then you don't get the $750. Well, you can still, you don't get $750, and then, and then you keep working in the wellness program so that you can get it for then 2022. So.
Anyone else?
Yeah, so how many retirees do you have currently?
We have, 9.
Just act like you're Cigna, make a
9 or
number
10.
up.
I'm sorry?
Just act like you're Cigna, make a number up.
9 or 10.
Pretty small.
Yeah, we don't have very many retirees right now. So,
Anyone else?
We have a little extra time. This year, we lowered the points on the wellness program because of COVID, because we couldn't do all the meetings that we normally do and the educational events that we normally do, so we cut the points in half.
120.
Lunch and learns and various things that HR puts on and other things to try to educate employees on, healthy cooking and healthy lifestyles and things like that. But because of the COVID problem, we couldn't have those meetings as often as we could. And part of the points, if you have a gym membership and then the gym shut down, you couldn't do that. So tried to make it a little easier this year, and hopefully we'll go back to the full program next year.
Anything else? Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank
Adrian,
you. Thank you all
Christina.
very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, if nothing else, then we will come back in approximately 30 minutes for our regular board meeting. This special call workshop is adjourned. I call this meeting of the Siloam Springs Board of Directors for September 1st, 2020 to order. Roll call.
Sappington,
Here.
Smiley,
Here.
Burns,
Here.
Hunt, Rissler,
Here.
Coleman,
Here.
Carroll.
Here.
Would you please stand as Director Sappington leads us in our opening prayer and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Our dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this awesome town that we live in, for all the blessings that you've given us and the beauty that surrounds us. Thank you for the beautiful rain that came today and for the hint of fall that's in the air. And I pray that we learn to be more conscientious of those that are around us, look out for our neighbors, watch out for families that are in need, and extend a Christian hand towards them. And I pray tonight as we go through the meeting agenda that you will lay on our hearts what is to be right. And I just pray a covering of grace over us in your holy name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, good evening. I think we look like we've got a house full for this situation that we're in. Make sure that at this particular time, remind everyone that you need to silence your electronic devices, your phones, whatever you may have that may ring, or we don't want to interrupt someone while they're making a presentation or asking questions or whatever that business might be. So make sure we got that taken care of. I've got mine silenced. All right, next, our first item here of business is the public input period of our business on our agenda. This is where the public may address the Board of Directors regarding any item on the consent agenda or any city business that is not listed on tonight's board's regular agenda. If you'd like to address the board on the consent agenda item or regular business, city business not on the agenda, come forward, state your name, address, and we'll hear what you have to say. Being none, we will move forward. Tonight's tonight's consent agenda involves A, regular meeting minutes for August 18, 2020. B, Resolution 42-20 authorized the rate of property tax for 2020 to be collected in 2021. C, budget amendment for FEMA covered COVID-19 expenses. D, dedication of utility easements at the 18780 Ridgeway Drive. E, dedication of utility easements 22,000 Highway 16. And F, dedication of utility easements 2300 block of North Carl Street. And finally on G, appointment of Planning and Zoning Commission and Board of Adjustments / Bryan McKenzie. Board, there was no public that came forward to make any comments regarding any of the agenda items. What is your pleasure? Yes, Carol.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there for that motion and a second? All those in favor? Excuse me, we've got to vote on this. This is a roll call. I'm going to keep wanting to get really shorten it. Roll call.
Smiley,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Sappington.
Yes.
Consent agenda items are approved. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to presentation for the 2019 audit report with Hinkle and Company, PC. Christina?
Mayor, members of the boards, tonight we have Kirk Vanderslice who will go over the results of our audit for 2019. Kirk?
Hawkeye. The Hawkeye.
Jayhawk, yes.
Hawk, excuse me, not a Hawkeye. That's Iowa. That's up north of you.
That's even worse.
That's worse. Yeah, sorry. Apologize for that.
Well, thank you very much. My name, again, is Kirk Vanderslice with Hinkle and Company, and I'm happy to be here presenting the 2019 audited financial statements. We conducted our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, and happy to report that we had an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion on the financial statements as a whole. Management's responsible for these financial statements. Our responsibility is to express an opinion on them and whether they're materially correct. And we're happy to say that we were able to express that opinion. We also expressed an opinion on the internal controls, and happy to say we had no deficiencies noted during that process. Everything went really smooth this year. We had no difficulties with management. They were a pleasure to work with, and they provided us support for every documentation request that we had. So really well that way. We had no significant disagreements, no uncorrected misstatements for this year, and things went really well. So most of the financial statements, the financial position of the city is very well. Especially at December 31st. There was a subsequent event, of course, that we did put a disclosure in there regarding COVID-19, that has a financial impact to most organizations subsequent to year end and before the report date of this. So the net effect of that is really hard to be seen at this point in time and at the report date. So we put that as a subsequent event, and everything else was fairly consistent with previous years. Any questions or comments?
Thank you. Any questions, board?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I was,
Bob?
excuse me, I mentioned it to these guys a little while ago. I was used to reading a paragraph for an audit report instead of 3 pages, but 3 pages said the same thing the paragraph always did, which was everything was wonderful. So I congratulate Christina and her staff and you fellas and ladies that did the audit, and we appreciate your findings. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. If there's no questions.
Hey, go Jayhawks.
Go Jayhawks. Yeah.
Rock Chalk.
Woo pig.
Thank you.
I do have the last say on that.
That you do. That's okay. We were thinking maybe if we didn't play football this year, it'd be our only chance to have an undefeated team.
Yeah.
In football. So thanks.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate you, gentlemen. All right, board. We'll move into our regularly scheduled items. And we have, what is it, Ben? 5, 6? 5. We have 5 ordinances that Ben is going to give his spiel on all 5 at one time. And that's so because much of it is repetitive. And then whenever Ben is done with that, then remind you that as ordinances for annexation, they must go to their 3rd reading. And we have to have a motion on each individual item. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the board, Ben Rhodes, Senior Planner. Yes, as the mayor stated, I'll be presenting on items I through M on the agenda all at one time now. So before you is the 2nd reading for the annexation of the 5 enclaves that are in wards 1, 2, and 3. Staff's not received any additional questions or comments since the 1st reading, and we do continue to recommend approval of all 5 of the ordinances. We stand by for any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Any comment from the audience? Being none, we will move forward. First was Ordinance 20-20, 2nd reading, annexation of enclave for West Bellevue Drive and South Highway 43. Do I have a motion to suspend?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Carol?
I move that we place ordinance number 2020 on its 1st reading, or 2nd reading, suspending the rules and reading by title only.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there further discussion on the motion to suspend? Being none, we will vote on the motion to suspend. Roll call?
Burns,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Sappington,
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Philip?
Ordinance number 20-20, an ordinance annexing certain lands that are completely surrounded by the incorporated limits of the city of Siloam Springs and for other purposes.
Thank you, Philip. Next is ordinance 20-21, second reading, annexation of enclave for 15589 Stevens Road. Do I have a motion to suspend?
Mr. Mayor,
Reed?
recommend that we place ordinance 20-21 on its second reading, suspending the rules and reading by title only.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion to suspend? Being none, we will vote on the motion to suspend. Roll call?
Yes.
Oldman,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Sappington,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Burns.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Philip?
Ordinance number 20-21, an ordinance annexing certain lands that are completely surrounded by the incorporated limits of the city of Siloam Springs and for other purposes.
Thank you, Philip. Next is ordinance 20-22, second reading, annexation of enclave South Highway 16 and 3402 Highway 412 East. Do I have a motion to suspend?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Marla?
I would like to place ordinance number 20-22 on its second reading, suspending the rules and reading by title only.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Is there discussion on the motion? Being none, we'll vote on the motion. Roll call?
Yes.
Yes.
Sappington,
Yes.
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 Motion is approved. Philip?
Ordinance number 20-22, an ordinance annexing certain lands that are completely surrounded by the incorporated limits of the city of Siloam Springs and for other purposes.
Thank you. Next is ordinance 20-23, second reading, annexation of enclave 3000 block of Highway 412 East. Do I have a motion to suspend?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Marla?
I'd like to make a motion to place ordinance number 20-23 on its second reading, suspending the rules and reading by title only.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on the motion? Being none, we'll vote on the motion. Roll call?
Yes.
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 Motion is approved. Philip?
Ordinance number 20-23, an ordinance annexing certain lands that are completely surrounded by the incorporated limits of the city of Siloam Springs and for other purposes.
All right. And we still have the one more, right? I didn't mark it out, and I just now marked it out. So we still have the last one. Okay. Making sure I got behind in my marking. Next is ordinance 20-24, second reading, annexation of enclave for 3870 Highway 412 East.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Marla?
I'd like to place ordinance number 20-24 on its second reading, suspending the rules and reading by title only.
Do you have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion? Being none, we will vote on the motion. Roll call?
Yes.
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 Motion is approved. Philip?
Ordinance number 20-24, an ordinance annexing certain lands that are completely surrounded by the incorporated limits of the city of Siloam Springs and for other purposes.
Thank you, Philip. Our final ordinance this evening is 20-26, second reading, Electric Department for the Electric Code Amendment. And if it is the board's pleasure, unless staff has an objection, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here. But when we get to it, let's just go ahead and get to Philip. Phil, I jumped ahead of you, Phil. I wasn't going to let you say anything. Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the board, Phil Stokes, Electric Director. Every 3 years, the National Electric Code is updated, and City Code states that the most recent version of the National Electric Code is adopted as the city's electrical code. However, the state doesn't automatically adopt the latest version of the National Electric Code. In order for us to be consistent with the state electrical code, which is adopted by other municipals in our area, we need to amend the city code to reference the most recent version of the National Electric Code as adopted by the state. Available for any questions.
Any questions from the audience? Being none, we will I will entertain a motion, and like I started to say, was without objection from staff, and they have not expressed any problem with this. If it's your pleasure, we could place Ordinance 20-26 on its second and third reading, suspending rules and reading title only.
Mr. Mayor,
Carol?
I move that we place ordinance number 20-26 on its second and third reading, suspending the rules and reading by title only.
Brad? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on the motion? Being none, we will vote on the motion. Roll call?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 Motion is approved. Philip?
Ordinance number 20-26, an ordinance amending section 89 of chapter 18 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code with regard to adoption of the National Electric Code.
Thank you, Philip. I'll now entertain a motion to adopt Ordinance 20-26.
So moved?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion to adopt? Being none, we will vote on the motion to adopt. Roll call?
Burns,
Yes?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Ordinance 20-26 is adopted. Thank you, board. Thank you, staff. Staff reports. Philip?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to update the board on the kayak park that is being worked on and has been proposed at the Lake Francis, the old Lake Francis Dam site on the Illinois River. And we're going to try to get, so there's a couple of images I just want to go through. The Walton Family Foundation is proposing to fund the park. GRDA, the Grand River Dam Authority, is going to be the grantee and proposing to operate and manage the park. So GRDA has picked a contractor. They've gone through their bidding process. They have the latest numbers. They don't have a final guaranteed maximum price, but that is likely to happen within the next week. The last information that I received from GRDA is they expect to have that guaranteed maximum price on the 4th of this month. And if that number is okay to the benefactor, then it is likely that they would take that project to the GRDA board on the 9th of September. So all that being said, it's likely that this project will come before you as the board to grant approval to the Siloam Springs Water Resource Company to dedicate the land to GRDA. We've been working on a deed that sets aside the land to dedicate it as long as it's being used for a kayak park. And if the project doesn't get completed in 3 years, the land reverts back to the Siloam Springs Water Resource Company. If it ever ceases to be used as a recreational kayak park, the land would revert back to the Siloam Springs Water Resource Company. So that's one of the things that is going to come before you. This is a drawing of just the general idea of the park. The really dark lines are all the contour lines that are being created. That's the kayak corridor, as I call it, and the little black lines in the middle are the various drops. So you can see the dam. That's the larger black line at the bottom of the screen going up and down. That's going through the river, and the water is going to be diverted around the dam, and that's where the kayak park's going to be. There's going to be parking, there's going to be restrooms, there's going to be changing rooms. All of those plans are in the 90% construction drawings as it stands right now today, and that's where they're working to get the bids on those particular drawings. And this is just a blow-up of that. Again, you can see the parking lot layout, an access road coming down to the lower access point, an access road with what looks like a cul-de-sac coming up to the upper part of that. That's where the put-in is, put in at the kayak park, and immediately flow through the first gate, and then through the rest of the drops, go down to the bottom, and you'll either have somebody pick you up or carry your kayak back up to the top. The dam improvements, the idea of the dam improvements is to stair-step the dam and improve its structurability, and then add, you can see that little arm coming out of there. It looks like an arrow at the top. That is just a big rock retaining wall to keep the water to go over the dam rather than around the dam. In most events, there is some gaps in that in case somebody in a kayak were to get past the buoys that'll be in the river. They need to be able to exit out of the river. We can't close it off completely. The idea behind what you would be asked to do to approve the Siloam Springs Water Resource Company to do is to dedicate parcel number 1 to GRDA. And that's the red parcel there that shows that area of what the city owns through the Oklahoma Corporation. And then grant an easement along the land that we own on the river and the dam so that GRDA can control access from the south side of the river to the park, because we really don't want people accessing the park from that side of the river, because the likelihood they would access above the dam and within the dam and the buoys, which wouldn't be the appropriate location. So what we've negotiated is granting them an easement to do that. And then we've also, in case there were some emergency and you needed to get down to the first gate, you can't get through the normal road, we would propose that the Siloam Springs Water Resource Company grant an emergency easement shown in yellow there. It doesn't show up really well on this drawing, I apologize, coming off the access road that's there in front of the park and in front of the city's intake. So there's really 3 parts to this project on this slide. It's dedication of the land, dedication of the large easement in blue, and dedication of an emergency access easement in yellow. And then as part of the Army Corps of Engineers review of this, they're requiring some land, about 9 acres, to be set aside for wetlands mitigation. And that is shown in the blue outline here. So this is looking at, you can see the dam at the top of the photo. The city owns the land to the right of the far left blue line. That's the old earthen embankment. So this used to be part of the lake before the dam failed many years ago. But the city owns all that land to the right of the screen, and you can see the wetlands through there. So part of the requirement through the Army Corps of Engineers to get their permit is to set aside this as a wetland mitigation area. It would be an easement. GRDA will plant numerous trees out there, hundreds of trees. They'll have to, 50% of them will have to survive. The agreement that we have set up is GRDA will maintain all of that. They are the permittee, not the city, not the Siloam Springs Water Resource Company. The way the agreement is written, they will be responsible to maintain that and see that the improvements that have to be made to that wetland area are going to survive, and it'll be up to them to manage that. This is the dam as it stands today. The northern portion of the dam failed years ago, and water rushes around the dam. You can see some water overflowing the dam there, but a large part of that water flows around the dam. And the idea from our standpoint is the dam is what creates the upstream pool level that ensures that we have sufficient elevation of the pool to be able to draw water out of the river. If the dam were to fail again, we would lose that pool elevation. So one of the big issues for us with this project is to not only ensure that upstream pool elevation, but what could be done to improve the structural integrity of that dam for future generations. And as many of you know that have been here through this project, the intent is to, as they pull the rock out from the kayak corridor, from the area where you're going to kayak, and bring some of that rock and shore up the dam and create this stair stepping so that if someone does go over the dam, they're not caught with the hydraulics underneath the dam and the water keep them down there and drown. But also it's going to shore that dam up and improve the structural integrity of that dam, ensuring that we have that upstream water elevation, that pool elevation, so that we can always draw water from the river. If we didn't do that and the dam were to fail, it would be months, if not a year, to come back and rebuild that dam. So this is the huge advantage to the city from the standpoint of this project, not just being an economic development project, but the shoring up of the structural integrity of the dam. And that's the design of it. There's another cutaway there rather than just, going over and turning vertical. You can see sort of the stair stepping of bringing in that rock and stair stepping that so that the dam will hopefully not ever fail in the future, but also it will provide a huge safety benefit if somebody somehow goes over the dam. They won't get sucked up by the hydraulics at the bottom. And that's just the artist view that we've been showing since day one. My point in bringing all this to you is, again, it is likely that within 2 weeks to maybe 45 days, this project is going to come before you as a board to make all those approvals as to granting the authority to the Siloam Springs Water Resource Corporation to deed the land to GRDA, to deed the easements to GRDA, to deed the conservation easement to GRDA. And the city's commitment in all this is the $700,000 portion of that structural integrity for the dam. When we originally brought that to the city, it was estimated that that portion of that cost, this project at that time was $15 million. I don't know what the bids are today. I know it's more than that. But at that time, the project cost for the structural integrity of the dam was $1.4 million. And based on the 90% drawings, I asked what that portion of the project is today, and that portion is now increased above $4.5 million. So for the city standpoint, to be able to get that dam structural integrity up to snuff, it's much more expensive than originally was anticipated, but our cost in this project remains what was originally agreed to by the board. So again, I just wanted to bring you up to date on that so that you kind of get prepared when staff brings this to you at some point in the future to ask you to approve all of these various documents to move forward as this project hopefully goes forward. Again, we're not 100% sure. We don't know the final numbers yet, but it's close. It's at the point where they've got all the federal and regulatory approvals they need. We're just waiting on that guaranteed maximum price from the contractor, and if the foundation goes forward with it from there, it'll go to GRDA and then eventually come back to you as a board. Moving on, you have the July financials. As always, if you have any questions, you feel free to call me or Christina as it relates to those. My formal administrator's report, I need to note an expenditure of $49,200 for an additional 77,500 feet of additional primary wire for the electric department. As reported 2 weeks ago, we're seeing some shortages in the aluminum and metal industries, and we want to make sure we have enough inventory for ourselves as we continue to expand our electrical utilities as we're growing and adding more houses onto that utility. When the police department was here a month or so ago talking about the lease for police vehicles, the chief mentioned that we had additional money in our budget, and he was going to be buying some additional vehicles. Signed the purchase order for two all-wheel drive 2020 Dodge Durangos, each totaling $31,087, so I need to report that. Also, I need to report, just for everybody's knowledge, many of you may be familiar with this lawsuit that relates to the Benton County Solid Waste District and waste management, and the fact that there are there's a lot of money involved in the various fees, and that money is sitting in an escrow account, and the question of whether or not it's going to be eventually decided that it goes to the Benton County Solid Waste District or whether it's going to be kept by Waste Management. That's part of the lawsuit. The problem in that today is the Solid Waste District doesn't have sufficient funding to finish the year. So the county judge, Judge Mooring, called me up the other day and asked if we could split the cost difference to keep the satellite, the Solid Waste District satellite convenience center here in Siloam Springs open for the rest of the year. I believe it's open only 2 days a month. And I asked him what the cost was. It was $6,600 and some odd dollars. So I've agreed to split that cost with the county to keep that convenience center open through the rest of the year. If we didn't do that, it would close on September 17th, and I think that's too quick. I have, thankful to you, we have money budgeted in the administrator's account under contingencies, and that's where that $3,300 will come from. But I wanted you to know that we are proposing to partner with the county to do that. It may be that that satellite center will not be open next year, but it's important to us as a city, it's important to our residents and to the county residents over here in this side of the county to be able to take your appliances and other things that we can't accept in our recycling center. You can take those to that county convenience center. So keeping that open is a major community benefit in our opinion, and we want to work with the county to do that. I continue to report the census numbers. It's coming down to the wire. You have there in front of you the state response rate is just over 59%. The national response rate is just under 65, and we're almost at 67 for the city. So we're ahead of the state. We're ahead of the national response rate. But again, I would encourage residents of Siloam Springs, if you have not filled out your census form, please do so. We have a kiosk here at City Hall. It takes 5 minutes at best to complete the form. We have a kiosk at the Community Development Department just up the street. The computers at the library are available to complete that census. Census workers are out in the community right now going door to door to those that have not completed the census, but it is important to the city for the next 10 years as we look at federal dollars and state turnback money that comes back to the city. 2 weeks ago, there was a discussion by a member of the public about grass clippings in the street. I met with staff, and we have a couple of different options, and you're welcome to tell me after the meeting or privately what your feelings on it. Obviously, we can always adopt an ordinance and require it that way. One of the things that we talked about at the staff level, which we thought might be worth trying, we're moving out of the mowing season as we move into the fall. But next year we thought what we might do, rather than just adopt an ordinance and make it a law, is really promote it on the standpoint of safety, of the aesthetics, and then also on the issue of stormwater, because it is a stormwater violation. If I live in a subdivision that has curb and gutter, and I blow my grass clippings out in the street and it runs into the curb and gutter and gets eventually into the city's stormwater system, it is a violation of our stormwater rules and regs. Other subdivisions that don't have curb and gutter, and as in the case of larger lot subdivisions, it might not be a violation because the grass clippings would just blow back into the yard and never really make it into the storm sewer system. So the idea, rather than trying to use the stormwater provisions, is to really try to do an educational program and try to encourage people not to do it. And if you see a neighbor do it, to let us know and let us send information to that individual to say why it's important not to do it, rather than putting it on the books and just sending a violation letter saying if you continue to do that, we're going to cite you and send you to the judge. But we thought we might try that next year and see if we can make a difference. If we don't make a difference, then we may have to come back with an ordinance. But you don't have to tell me tonight, but if you just send me your feedback on that, let us know what your thoughts are. As we move out of the season, I think we've got time to figure out which is the best way to go beginning in 2021 into the mowing season. You have also before you the COVID active cases that the Arkansas Center for Health Improvement is now updating. You can see there we're still leading as far as cases per thousand. This is as of 8/24. We had 52 active cases, or just over 3 cases per thousand population. And you can see the numbers there in Fayetteville. We're still, you can see from 8/10 we had 83 active cases. We dropped on 8/17 to 42, but now we're back up, the latest numbers, we're back up to 52. So again, I would encourage the public to remember, I know we're all tired of wearing masks, we're tired of dealing and talking about COVID, but it's still here, and I would encourage everybody to continue to wear your mask, practice good hygiene and your 6-foot social distancing. Continuing with COVID, I want to ask the board for your consent to extend the emergency declaration. We did that a couple of months ago on July the 7th. The governor's extension is currently through October the 16th, and I would ask that the board consent. I don't need a vote, just as much as I would ask for head nods to extend our emergency declaration for another 60 days, which would get us to November 4th, just a few weeks past the governor's. We'll have to wait and see if the governor's going to extend theirs, the statewide, or not. Continuing sort of with COVID, we want to have fall softball, and these are things that are not on my list that came up today. Staff has put together a plan to have a co-ed fall softball tournament instead of an 8-week league, but a 4-week tournament. We can do that, we believe, in compliance with the health department's mandates on team sports. So I want to announce that we are moving into that realm, and the Parks Department will be advertising that. But we're trying to get back to being as normal as possible. I've had a lot of questions when we're going to open up the Kayak Park. As soon as the weather breaks, when people aren't out there swimming and the masses are there, we want to open the Kayak Park. So that's likely to happen soon. And then lastly, the last thing I have to report, and it should be in tomorrow's paper, beginning Wednesday, September the 9th, the street division will begin milling and overlaying East Tahlequah Street from the bridge across Sager Creek at North Washington Street to North Country Club. So we're going to try to do that in 3 phases. The first phase will be from Washington to North Hico, and then from Hico to Lincoln, and then from Lincoln to Country Club. So if you're driving on that section of Tahlequah, there will be delays. We will have 1 lane open so we can allow traffic to go back and forth. There will be detour signs. We hope to be complete by the end of the month, subject to weather, but it is a major project for us to overlay that section of Tahlequah. Mr. Mayor, I thank you and the board, and that's all I have, and I'm available for any questions. But I would like head nods as far as extending the emergency declaration, or a statement or something. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I wanted to ask Philip about the kayak park. How much land is that going to entail that
That we would be dedicating? I should know it off the top of my head, in between 10 and 15 acres.
All right, that was in addition to what?
The conservation easement would be. Yeah, the conservation easement is just that. We would still, the water resource company would still own it, but the conservation easement means we can't fill it in, we can't build roads on it. We basically keep the public off of it and just maintain it as a mitigation area.
Can you send us that information that you...
Slides?
Yes,
ma'am, I
please.
can, yes.
Thank you.
I would have sent it out this morning, but I just put them together not too long.
All right. Phil, did you get head nod count there? Okay.
Anybody doing this, so.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Philip. Appreciate it. I'm like you, Marla. I'm tired of these things, these masks. I tell you what, and I'm still not. I get out of my truck, go to the grocery store or something like this, or Walmart or Lowe's, whatever, and half the time I have to turn around and come back because I forgot to get it. And it's just not in the second nature, and I hope it doesn't have to become that second nature. But it is what it is, and we moved along pretty quickly this evening until we got to Philip, and.
Kept us here past 7.
So I'm going to just move it on a little faster. And excuse me, Director Carroll, you've got the opening statements.
Up tonight?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say I appreciate the rain today. It's wonderful to see that. I really just want to encourage us as a community to really make sure that we maybe not get out and get hands and feet into it, but just get active in our community. And let's participate when the election happens. Let's get out and vote. We may be stifled a little bit with the pandemic. There's still some things we can do to get out and about and be community and be who we are. A great place to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Reed. Carol?
Well, kind of to follow up with that, I was out at City Lake this weekend, and there was just a lot of people out there. Those trails are just wonderful. The weather was great to be out there. The people that I saw out there, when I asked where they were from, not all of them were from Siloam. We are bringing in people from Fayetteville, Gentry, Oklahoma. If you haven't been out there, go out and take a look at it, because it's amazing how much we have out there that people are using. I am proud that our city has those type of facilities. They're wonderful. I also want to encourage people, if you're looking for a job, to go out on our website, because the city is hiring some people. And if you'll just go out to www.siloamsprings.com, there is a place where you can see where they are hiring, and there's an application online. I also want to make people aware of our Fix-It form. If you've got a problem with the city, you can go online. Again, our website is just a wealth of information about the city. You can fill that out and see if you can. It seems to me that when I see the surveys on this Fix-It form, that these problems are being taken care of pretty speedily. I'm glad to see the East Tahlequah Street overlay being done. I also want to thank our city employees. I think we have a great staff. Maybe sometimes we have some little glitches, but that happens. It happens in any kind of a business, and I appreciate all the employees that we have working for Siloam Springs. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Bob?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to comment again on the audit report. The audit report is done every year, and every year, as far as I can go back, they've always had an unqualified opinion, which I used to worry about, but that means there aren't any problems. They didn't have to qualify any part of their good report. And I think our accounting staff is to be commended for that. That should assure the citizens that their money that comes in through taxes and sales tax and property tax is being accounted for properly. It's being spent properly. There's no monkey business going on, because that's what these guys look for, and it's been attested every year since I've been on the board, and even before that we've had no experience in that. Plus, we've had full cooperation of the administration and the accounting department in making available all the figures that were necessary. So I'd like to thank them once again for a job well done, and just congratulate that whole accounting staff. That's all I have.
Thank you, Bob. Brad?
I lied. I added something after the city administrator, but the kayak park, when we looked at that mitigation site, I just would really encourage the board and people in our citizens that are interested, Simon Sager, as we continue to develop that road, those are example of runoff areas that at the end of the day, if we don't manage those properly, it is a major contributor to the poor water quality that we're experiencing even today at Sager. And I know that's on our docket. That's a worthy project to undertake. If you get a chance, Collier Park in Bentonville did a great restoration project with a company that we'll be using out by the golf course. And Rogers has another stream bed project that has been taking place. And so this movement of being responsible in providing these areas are vital for all of us to enjoy these amenities and features. So I just encourage you to say that. New businesses downtown on Broadway, if you get a chance, stop by, take a look at them. And if you like those sort of carbs, you should probably participate. And then Girls' Nights Out will be downtown on September 10th. So I just encourage everybody to go downtown, but that specific night's a Main Street gig, and hopefully the weather will be great and you can enjoy it. Thank you.
So Brad, did Mindy send you a text to make sure that you covered some of those things?
I've
or something?
deleted all 3 pages.
Okay.
No.
Marla, before you get started, Philip has something he needs to,
Go back to the slide. Director Sappington, thank you for asking for that. I forgot to show one slide that we also need to be aware of. I apologize. As soon as they can bring it up and we can go to the last slide. Part of the project that it's outside, yes, it's outside the Kayak Park, but the idea, part of this project also includes a 10-foot concrete trail from the city of Siloam Springs to the Kayak Park at the old Lake Francis Dam site. It's just under 5 miles long, and part of that request that you will have before you is a commitment from the city to accept the dedication of 3.5 miles of that to the state line at some point in the future. Once this will be built at the end of the whole project, if the Kayak Park construction goes through. But you can see in the green line there, the idea we would start at Holly Street and 412, go south on Holly, turn on Quarter, go down Carl, and then snake around and eventually snake through the woods. And there's a very beautiful piece of property down there that the trail would go through and then eventually would cross over the state line, and then GRDA would own it at that point and manage it and maintain it from that point forward. But this is sort of the, I don't know if it's the icing on the cake, but this is one of those other smaller pieces to this much larger project that is in the planning to be able for residents to be able to either walk or ride their bikes, to be able to access that Kayak Park from the city without having to drive. So I would have been remiss if I did not mention this again. Again, Director Sappington, I appreciate I was just converting this one more time before I sent it to you, and I forgot to show this slide. So I apologize for that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Philip, our city's responsibility on that would be the mowing or
To mow it, it will be, it's a 30-foot wide easement or 30-foot wide. They've either purchased an easement or purchased the land outright. I think they purchased the land outright. So what would be dedicated to the city would be a 30-foot wide strip of land, 10 foot on either side of the trail. We're in discussions with GRDA right now. As far as mowing it, we would just rough mow probably 5 feet on either side of it, one pass down and one pass back up. The idea, we want to make sure that's the same sort of technique that GRDA is going to use. The idea behind it, if the board is in agreement to accept it, then after that, then we would annex it in so that just like the Kayak Park at Fisher Ford and just like City Lake, we could enforce our own rules and regs on it. And if there was an issue, the police could deal with that issue so it's not in the county from that standpoint. But that would be the general maintenance would be just providing the mowing and keeping the weeds down off the trail.
just to the state line? Right, okay. Thank you, Philip. Marla, you've been patiently waiting.
I know. I just hope you're not going to make us walk that before before we have to prove it.
Might take the board on a
Four-wheeler.
four-wheeler drive or something,
Utility vehicle. Oh, gosh. Okay. I just wanted to let the public know that the absentee ballot information was released today, that if you need to vote by absentee ballot, you can get that through the Benton County site. I also want to let you know that Bella Vista is pushing about 80% on the census, and we can do much better than that. So we need to get busy. I had a young lady stop at my door to ask about my neighbors. And so we just need to encourage the public that they're out and about, and just it doesn't take 4 or 5 minutes just to answer their questions. I want to congratulate the financial department on the clean audit. That's always a good thing. That's a lot of hard work, and really appreciate their dedication. and attended the AML video conference today. It was pretty interesting, and so we have the ability to do that and learn some things. So it's nice to have the opportunity to do that. And lastly, I want to urge neighbors that if you have a COVID family or someone in COVID quarantine and they need food, call the Manna Center and we'll take the food to them. We do not want families to go without food. I encourage the HR people, you know who they are, reach out to us and we'll do what we can to help them.
Thank you, Marla. Lisa, you got a big responsibility here.
I do.
Right.
And I'm going to be quick because I'm like you. I just want to say thank you to Philip and all the staff for taking care of. I continue to get phone calls, and every time I get them, they take care of them. The one thing I like about it is we are growing as a city, but we're not so large that we forget that there are individuals that we need to take care of. We look at people as individuals and not as a big city. And I appreciate staff having that perspective. And so I make a motion to adjourn.
All right. We have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Without objection, all those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We are adjourned. Whoopee.